Today, we have the privilege to look into an innovative device named the Urodapter from UroSystem. We are joined today with Dr. Lovas Sandor in Hungary, practicing physician at the RMC in Budapest, but also the director of the medical education at UroSystem. Dr. Sandor has a great interest in research in the field of urodynamic of the upper urinary tract system. We also had the honor to have Dr. Bela Keresh, another physician with high interest in urology, running the, I'm not sure I'm saying it right, Weber Medical Center, a urology center in Budapest, and also the chief medical officer at UroSystem. Both of you guys, welcome this morning with us at Dawa Medical.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Good evening.
Before getting into the discussion, can you give us a little bit an understanding of the rate of complication associated with intravesical installation? Is it common complication?
Well, yes, it is. I cannot tell you in what percent it happens, but it's an aggressive, invasive method which is used to do up to date, because the catheterization makes always a mechanical damage of the surface mucous layer of the urethra, and therefore it is painful, and maybe it also it pros to infections. So this is a problem with the catheterization.
Yeah, I would put complication rates somewhere around 1%, but there are no real clinical studies behind this. It's just clinical experience. But when because what we're talking about is intravesical instillation, meaning that we inject or instill some medical fluid directly to the urethra, traditionally through the catheter. And what Urodapter does, the main innovation, that it replaces catheter. You don't need a catheter to inject the fluid through the urethra. And most complications with intravesical installations are associated with the catheterization itself. So it's not different when you put a catheter for this instance for another. And when you insert a catheter, there is always chance to cause bleeding, some other type of urethral trauma, infection, which is probably the most common, and in the long-term urethral strictures. I would put them somewhere around 1%, which can consider low, but because these treatments are performed so frequently, of course, that cumulates to a huge patient number. But I would zoom out a bit and say that these are medical complications, which we are talking about, but just the physical distress or pain or being unpleasant when you get a catheter, that's a very common issue, which is not considered a complication from the doctor's side. However, if you ask a patient, probably they will tell you that getting a catheter is a very bad experience, and that being unpleasant or painful, that's happening almost all case of catheterization. And even if it's not really painful, there is always the fear from the fear from pain or the psychological distress. So when patients often say that when you have to go to the doctor for intravesical treatment, whole week they are anxious because they know they will have a catheter, and that's universal. So I think that's happening for all patients.
So I always say that, and I think it's true. The best medical device always come from physicians. And so my next question to you is, what motivated the development of the Urodapter?
Well, I'm treating IC patients since 20 years. I specialized on this disease. So I really meet very often patients, and I always discuss with them the treatment options and their opinion about the different kind of treatments. And I found that many patients, and this is not just 1%, or over 30%, who refuse a local installation therapy because the catheterization is so painful. And therefore, I tried to leave catheterization out and to instill the drug solution directly into the urethra and naturally through the urethra inside the bladder as well. So these were the first attempts. I used different type of tiny adapters or very short catheter and so on. So many trials were made till this present form of this adapter was developed. And since then, we use it always in all cases because the patients are so much happy by using this adapter. They don't let perform a treatment and installation again with a catheter. I also had a patient who traveled 200 kilometers to get the installation and then back home because her local urologist performed the treatment as installation just with a catheter. And the difference was so huge that it was worth for her to travel such a long distance.
Yeah. And from what both of you just said, I think it's not about complication mainly. It's about comfort for the patient. And that's probably where this product is so innovative and where, your patient will obviously prefer something like this than a catheter, installation of a catheter. I want to just show for the audience here what the product looked like. So, and maybe you can talk about it a little bit here.
Yeah.
So this is the product. In the US, that's the name of it, Urodapter. So can you talk a bit about the product itself? How does it work exactly?
Yeah, I would like just to give a few thoughts and maybe to the previous line of thoughts, and then Shandor, maybe you can describe the product better. So I think you are right that this is about patient comfort and just reducing unnecessary pain and complication. And the very interesting thing is that catheters were never designed to instill anything into the body. Catheters were designed to drain the urine from the body when you are unable to void, in which case you really need a rigid or semi-rigid tube to bypass that obstruction, or just create a tube in which the urine can outflow. But it was never designed to bring fluid inside. And if you are a person who can physiologically urinate multiple times a day, meaning that you are completely ready for fluid to be passed down your urethra, it means that you can just reverse engineer that, and then you don't need a catheter to get fluid through the urethra. It's just basic physics. If you can apply pressure to go toward the urethra, then the fluid will go there. So it's there is nothing hidden secret. It's just nobody took the energy and the interest to design something, because from a doctor's perspective, it might be a minor thing. Okay, I have to put in the catheter. But as we said, if you can think with the patient's head and from patient perspective, that thing of having a catheter or not, it's a major game changer and it's a complete change in experience. So although everybody knew in the urological community the catheter is just an unnecessary old way to do things, nobody took the experimenting and the few years you need to come up with a design and all the risk and journey you have to go through until you have a product in the development. And I think this is where Shandor, Dr. Lovas, has a very good achievement, that he had the commitment to go through, and this is the final form, as we see, that we could basically replace the catheter, which should have never been part of intravesical installations.
Now I can explain you a few parts of this adapter. So this is in the picture you see, it's set on a syringe. Optimally, syringe should be a Luer lock syringe, which means that it holds the adapter stronger.
Mhm.
And let's start with the tip of this adapter. It's a short tip, you see, rounded, and it's just 8 millimeter long. Yes, there it can be seen. Just this tip fits into the orifice of the urethra. And then the next part, which is very important, is the isolating color, because this fits over the surface around the orifice, and this makes possible to instill the liquid in a drop-free way. The next part is, you see, approximately 1 centimeter wide. There you can grip with your hands this adapter and place and screw on the syringe. And it's very important that this isolating color is elastic. It can change its shape to fit optimally on the surface. Naturally, we need to do some effort to press against the surface a little bit, but the strength of this effort can be changed individually.
We do have some sample here at the office. I have to say it's very soft. It looks very soft. The touch also very soft. So my question is, how did you came from the idea of this moving away from the catheter? I'm just trying to pick your brain and how did you came to this invention and how long it takes from the first device that you built to the final one that we have right now?
Yes, as I mentioned, I treat a lot of IC patients regularly, over 400 now, but altogether over 800 patients diagnosed already in the last 20 years. So I meet regularly these patients, and I got the feedback from them that the catheterization is so painful, they don't, they want to refuse it. And therefore, I had to find some solution to give the patients the chance to have the advantages of the local installation without the pain. And therefore, I tried different things, and the feedback from the patients was very positive. And this brought us to deal with this problem and very systematically go on to change, to optimize the form, the material, and so on, till we found this optimal final form.
So it's just amazing that, and I said that at the beginning, most of those innovative products that are useful because there is other medical device on the market, and you look at them and say, okay, I'm not sure what it bring to the table. But you look at this and you say, wow, okay, it is a simple product. It's not super rocket science, but it fit in a demand in the market about how comfortable it would be. Yes, we talk about complication, but mostly how a patient will prefer this than getting having a catheter put inside their body. I think that's it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And so my question was also how long it took to arrive with this final product.
I'm sorry, I did not understand your question. Repeat it, please.
How many years have you been working on this?
How much? It took approximately a year till we developed this final product.
Yeah.
But since
so
then, we use it,
quick.
And altogether, I instilled already 3,500 times. So I am I'm quite skilled. But
Yeah.
but you should not be afraid. If somebody starts to deal with this device, the colleagues do not need so many skill for a successful treatment.
Yeah, and actually, Shandor, as we were colleagues back in the day, and Shandor experimented in different ways how you can solve to remove catheter from the equation, and so he accumulated lots of his ideas and let's say failed attempts, and once we realized, or he realized, what seems to be the best approach, then it was a year until the final, let's say, version, but of course it was preceded by many years of trials. And what you just said, it's really simple, and it's a common experience that when I talk to clinicians, patients, medical doctors about this outside urology, and they just check the device, they think, isn't this something which exists 10 years ago? Because it really seems so logical that everybody is wondering why this wasn't invented before, because it's so logical. And we always say that, well, it's logical, just nobody took that extra step to invent it, but really it just so perfectly fits in the place that it's simple but useful. So I think it's a very great product.
So, looking at the product, it seems that there's obviously a learning curve how to use it. But can you talk about it compared to the way to do it right now, the catheterization? I guess there's still a learning curve, but it's not as complicated, I guess.
Well, naturally, it should also be learned as the catheterization also. But the end result is very positive. It can be performed easily, quickly, and with the great advantage that also the patient gets very happy.
Yeah, and I think once you get experience, then most medical procedures becomes easy. So if you're experienced, then catheterization becomes easy. But yet there is a reason that in many countries, for example, nurses are not allowed to insert catheters to male patients because they can cause damage with the male urethra. Only clinicians or doctors. So with Urodapters, you can't do any damage. So nurses are completely trained and easily can use the Urodapter. Usually, the initial, based on feedback, after the 10, 15 tryouts, you get the hang of it, and after that you can perform installations really, really easily and quick. However, it's important to emphasize that although it looks simple, you still need to understand the key movements and have some basic practice. Like with catheters, if you would try a catheter without practice, you could cause problems. So if you have, through your proper basic training, which can do online or performed online, and 10, 20 maybe installations, then you should be able to treat most of your patients without any problem.
And I've looked at all the documentation and the videos that you already produced that's available for anyone. It's perfectly made. It's easy to understand, and like you said, if people follow the step, and there's a scale, training, but after that, I'm pretty sure it goes very smoothly. I want to obviously, we're talking about the product, but what are the primary indications for the Urodapter?
Well, I can say all cases where we want to instill any liquid drug solution into the bladder, not to drain the bladder, but in opposite direction to instill something. In any case, not just in interstitial cystitis, but in chronic bacterial cystitis or radiotherapy-induced cystitis or chemotherapy-induced hemorrhagic cystitis. In all these cases, the same adapter, the same method can be used with different solutions.
And I think for people looking at the device, may have the question, is it only for men or it's only for women also?
That's a very good question. I just wanted to speak about it a little bit. It's for both genders the same device and the same solution to be used. But you should know that the male patients have, if they have, for example, is interstitial cystitis, they have more serious pain inside the urethra. Women also may have urethral pain, but as the based on the anatomic situation, the male patients have a longer urethra, and therefore the pain is also on a higher level. So it is very, very useful that we can instill through the urethra into the bladder, and the agent remains, or mainly a molecular layer, remains on the surface of the urethra till the next urination. So it can be used the same in male and women, but in male patient, the positive effect is in some cases more expressed.
Yeah. And furthermore, it's very easy for self-treatment for male patients. It can be used by females as well. However, anatomically, it's harder to reach their urethra, but there are lots of experience by male patients that they can use it for self-treatment at home. And I would like to add for the indications that generally there are two types of intravesical treatments and mainly used by urologists or gynecologists. First, for some type of regeneration, like Dr. Lovas listed, bladder pain syndrome, recurrent urinary tract infections, post-chemo, post-irradiation cystitis. And this is where primarily it was developed and been used in many countries and in many regions. And another very important part of intravesical installations is urology, is for bladder cancer. So local oncological treatment of superficial bladder cancer, in which case patients get either immunotherapy or local chemotherapy. And that's a second area where we are trying to introduce Urodapter. However, here the medical solution you instill is more a high-risk solution because it's not a regenerative solution, but either a immunoactive or cytostatic solution. So we are currently performing clinical trials. They are ongoing at the moment to see if it's successful and what are the effects. So far, by the interim results, I can say that after maybe 300, 400 installations in oncological cases, the results are very good, just the same as with regenerative treatments. So if those trials results, the final results will be the same, then it will be safe to say that it will be able to use it for bladder cancer patients, which is a major source for intravesical treatments. However, I would like to emphasize that this is still a part of an ongoing trial at the moment.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Is there any challenges or complication that's been observed, such, anatomical variability, tight urethral openings or leakage, and how are these addressed?
Yes, it's quite clear that the anatomic situation it's very variable. It's always different in every cases. The orifice of the urethra can be either wide or wider than generally, or very, very narrow. Those can cause some problems, but they can be solved. In the wide orifice cases, we can place the isolating collar in a very special way just to prevent leakage. If the orifice is very narrow, narrower than the tip of the adapter, then we don't place the tip inside the urethra, just press the opening of this tip against the orifice, and so we can instill the agent. Another problem is if the orifice is very deep, let's say on the side of the vagina, and it cannot be reached from outside. it can happen in some cases. First of all, if the patient we see it in elderly women who have since many decades no sex, that the introitus vaginae is so narrow that we cannot reach the orifice. But these are just a very, very rare case. Otherwise, it can be solved.
Okay. If we're talking about the market right now, where the product is currently sold?
Yeah. So what initially the Urodapter reached the market in 2018 originally, and then we start as a CE approved MDD certified sterile class 1 medical device, and mainly in Europe. And we almost initially entered a partnership with IBSA, which is a major Swiss pharma company who have an important product as an intravesical instillation drug called Hyaluril. They are mainly on the European market, and they immediately saw the market advantage and competitive advantage to have this Urodapter with their product. So they co-pack it with their product. So each piece of Hyaluril comes packed together with a piece of Urodapter under their brand name Hyalu adapter, but that's just a Urodapter. And that made and it is sold in mostly all countries in Europe. And that was a mutually beneficial situation because they could have the clinical benefit of their product and also an additional IP benefit in some countries. And for our side, it was very good because we could collect a tremendous amount of clinical data. Let's say 4 scientific publications have been published based on these results. We collected lots of user feedbacks, testimonials, and we could streamline our production facilities and capacities to scale up to other markets. So it was a very ideal market launch in 2018. And through this, it got a very widespread use in Europe during the years. I think we are somewhere above 1.5 million pieces sold and used mostly in Europe and some other countries. So that was the first phase, I would say. And then since 2022, we are focusing more to distribute it as a standalone product and to reach different markets outside of Europe, because of course this was a quick start for an invention, and in this time we could scale up to serve more markets. So now it is IP protected in many countries, including the United States. But we get the patent in the European market, the European Commission's patent in Canada, Japan, India, Brazil. It is FDA registered, and we are also we have the MDR certificate, so we have the transmission is completed, and we are waiting for the approval. So we are ready for other markets, and it is available in the USA market now. So of course it's a big thing for us, and we find it very important. And distribution start this year in Canada and in India, which are also big markets this year. So we're getting more and more international.
That's very interesting. That's a nice way to start. Obviously, that give a good push to the product, and now you're ready to fully deploy the product here in the US. We are partnering with you guys to try to make it as smooth as possible, efficient. What do you think that the feedback or the reaction in the US will be different, or will be similar, or there's a bigger need here in the US for that kind of product?
I don't understand your question. The reaction and the efficacy will be the same as all over the world. I don't think American market or American people are so much different from others. If it works in all other parts of the world, why shouldn't it work the same way in the US?
Yeah. Well, I think there might be some slight differences for like the recommendations for intravesical instillation, but general, the same treatment and same modalities are recommended and used and performed in the United States. What is a major difference that in Europe we have pre-filled drugs, so to say, you can buy in a pharmacy for as an intravesical cocktail, like hyaluronic acid, chondroitin sulfate, and so on. So clinicians are in an easier position to select what drug they want to instill. In the United States, clinicians more use their self-made cocktails, or they have to prepare some cocktails which they can instill in the urinary tract. So they are a bit left alone. But this also highlights the need for this type of treatments, because even though they don't have pre-filled drugs, they still go to the length of creating their own cocktails, and because patients need this type of treatment, and for more and more, like in urinary tract infection, local treatments and prevention gets more and more emphasized with antibiotic resistance. So I think there is a huge need in the United States as well. And I think, well, we talk with lots of clinicians, of course, all around the world, and doctors think the same and treat the same and have the same motivations. Of course, the market is a bit different and distribution strategies can be a bit different. This is why it's key to have an ideal and experienced distribution local partner who can bridge this gap between differences.
And whatever reason I was asking this question is because one thing that we were very impressed with when we started to work with you is the feedback from patients. And it's not something that you see a lot for a lot of medical devices. It's very rare, actually. But we got, feedback from patients who are so impressed. They try to get the product because it changed their life. And it's very rare that you see that and you hear that from a patient that it changed my life. So, and I think the what's different with the US is here in the US, we like stories. We like, to hear about that. And I think that's very good for your product because that's going to help a lot. But if I asked you, can you share some patient feedback or case study that illustrate how the Urodapter has improved treatment adherence or quality of life?
Well, prospective multicenter clinical study is now running where we ask the patients after each treatment what they felt, what kind of experience they have. And the not final result, but the intermediate result shows that they are very happy with it, and we never found really serious complications.
Yeah, and regarding patient stories or testimonials, I completely agree, and I think it's true everywhere in the world, and I suppose it's especially important, might be especially important in the United States. But I think, we like stories, and it's easier to learn and trust true stories and convincing testimonials. So I actively try to collect positive testimonials, not just from patients, but from specialists, from doctors as well, because I think those are the both sides of the coin. You need to show that this is really perfect, because the strength of this product, that it has clear benefits for patients, it has clear benefits for doctors, and also for healthcare providers. So if you are a manager of a clinic or manager of a hospital, you still have clear benefits of this device, and we might talk about that later. But and of course, sometimes we get these testimonials spontaneously, like letters or emails, and of course, those are the best moments. And what comes to my mind from the United States, we just got a letter or email earlier this year from a woman from the United States who suffers from bladder pain syndrome, and she requires long-term intravesical treatment to maintain or decrease her symptoms. But when they try this treatment with her, after almost each occasion, she gets severe urinary tract infections and severe pain. So she wasn't able to continue her treatment because of these complications. And again, this shows, even though, those complications might 1%, but but statistics are a bit tricky because that for some patient it's life debilitating complication. So her treatment stopped, and of course because of this her treatment becoming worse and worse again, and she was losing hope. And then she find Urodapter, I think through online, or she just tried to look for some ways to get the treatment without catheters, and she just ordered online, I think with help of the nurse, or so the team was backing her, which is again a very good point, and respect to the nurse and the doctor that they went to extra mile and get the Urodapter and tried it, and it was very successful. She had no infectious episodes since then. She gets the treatment continually without any infection, without any pain, and she just wrote us thanking the opportunity, and she considered it a life-changing, even life-saving innovation, because now her symptoms are at least better or gone, and all the complications and out. And she just contacted us saying that more patients and doctors should know about this in the United States as well. So again, this is just a very good testimonial. And just another one from which I like is from Poland, from a guy that's a male patient, I think bladder pain syndrome as well, from Poland. And he had a problem which I think is very common in some situations, that the specialists are rare, and he would have traveled many hours to his specialist. But because if this is a weekly treatment, he couldn't organize and could not afford to travel, I don't know, 3 hours each week to a specialist and pay the cost. And again, his symptoms started to get worse and worse. And then he found Urodapter, ordered some, and he started self-treatment. That's an average patient. And in a few tries, he mastered Urodapter. Again, for guys, it's really simple. As you said, it's not rocket science. And since then, he's treating himself very effectively. He goes to the specialist twice a year, so every 6 months, just for a checkup. But the weekly installation treatments are performed by himself in his home without moving. And again, he contacted us to say thank you, because this gave an opportunity, like a life-saving opportunity, which he otherwise shouldn't have. And we have basically many similar testimonials and stories, which are clearly shows how it's good for patients. And also we get testimonials from doctors, clinicians, and they usually say that once they try this and introduce it in their practice, patients get addicted to it, so to say, or they love it, even if they, especially if they have experience with catheterized methods before. And as they say, once they try it, they would never consider going back to the catheter way. And if they would try it, their patients would be super angry, and they would say, no, doctor, no catheters anymore. So we have positive testimonials from and stories from both sides of the story.
May I end just one short story? 1 year ago, a lady reported from the US that she has very serious symptoms, and the therapy she got was not effective enough. And she found in the internet a few videos of mine in the YouTube, and she decided to ask me to treat her. I told, I'm sorry, I cannot treat so in such a distance. And she took a ticket for a plane, flew to Budapest for a week, and within this week I taught her how to instill herself, and we also discussed what kind of treatment protocol I recommend to her. And she went home, and she is very happy, and we keep contact since then regularly, quarterly. We discuss it, how she is doing, but she is doing much better. And she performs the self-installation with the adapter without problem.
That blew my mind. That just show how it's not about infection rate. It's about comfort. It's about changing life of patient. This is fantastic. Seriously, it's amazing. And if you are a physician listening to this, don't be surprised if you have a patient coming to your clinic and asking for this product. So, what kind of training and follow-up support do you provide to clinics and self-administrating patients to ensure, safe and effective use?
Yeah, I think that's important and key, because this is somewhat a disruptive, innovative technology. So it's very important to help early adopters, either patients or clinicians, to get familiar with the device. And I would say that, we have 7 years experience in different markets, and how patients and doctors react, and what are their typical questions, and what are the pain points they need to hear. And also Dr. Lovas and myself are practicing clinicians treating patients. I have a training and experience in medical marketing as well. So we exactly know what are the pain points, the motivations, clinicians and patients need to understand to get forward with the product. So we try to use that to provide a very wide and deep pool of training materials and support materials, and I think this is very important. And it starts with we pre-recorded some webinar, 4-part webinar, teaching the basics about the device, the physiology, the practical use and tutorial, explaining indications, answering to frequently asked questions. So there is a whole webinar provided. As you mentioned, we developed our own free online web application for early users, which turned out to be very, very successful, and it's mobile optimized. So basically, even in the office, you can just quickly look it through your mobile phone, and by step, it shows a short video animation format and a text-based format, what you should do. And even patients or clinicians very almost immediately understand, and it made the learning curve really quicker. So with this, even after 2 or 3 tryouts, usually the installations are successful. And on top of that, we have 3 or 4 publications. We can provide access to that. We collected testimonials, positive testimonials, which I also think are, as we discussed, very important. And we have some supporting materials, leaflets, flyers. So that might be more important for clinics or healthcare providers or distributors. So we have the dedicated support materials for all audiences, clinicians, nurses, patients. So we get all that covered, and we feel with that we can create all the background support we can provide. And of course, on top of that, if there is interest from any clinic or any distribution area, we usually provide online support and training, and make sure that they understand everything. And usually that's enough, but it's not. We sometimes go to on-site trainings, and we do in Europe. We have a workshop training once a year or twice a year. Of course, that's not that easy in the United States, but it can be arranged. And I think this is why having an ideal distribution partner is key, because that's our common goal and challenge to create a training center in the United States as well.
Yeah, and that's super important, because any new product innovation, if it's not used correctly at the beginning, people will say no. They say, okay, even if the product is super, it's nice, it's good, it works. If it's not used correctly at the beginning, it could be dangerous, for the product at the end of the day. So again, I saw the material is very well done. It's very easy to understand. But still, I think we're going to work together, try to make it as smooth as possible for the US market. And there's no rush. What I mean by that is it's better to start walking than start running, and make sure that when people start using it, they know how to use it and you have success. Before we close, anything else you should want to bring into the discussion?
I just one line of thought that if we're talking about partners and early steps in the United States market, I find it very important to identify those, let's say, key opinion leaders, even inside urology, who are dedicated and interested in this area, and through them, reach and build up local champions who are committed, and local training sites or centers of references. And if they are happy, and usually they are happy with the product because it's really again it just works. Then it's a game changer, because then we can build up from there. So anybody is interested, or we are super happy to have anybody of board in the with this product. And regarding the benefits, I would just add one other, because we talked how much important it is for patients, and it with less complication and increased quality of life, or in less symptoms. But the same applies for clinicians. So if you're a clinician, I think, or anybody is listening to this, if your patients have less pain and less distress and less complications, I think that's a very powerful motivation, or very powerful marketing. And this is a very competitive landscape. So there are two doctors in town, both providing the same treatment, one with catheter and the other without catheter. It's just common sense that the one without the catheter will win the competition. So if from a doctor's perspective, it's less complication, more advantages, and from a healthcare provider perspective, that means it decrease cost, decrease legal consequences, and just more satisfied patients, meaning more prestige and more and the better institutions. So I think this is really a solution where we can find a win-win game, and those are the best games to play. So that would be my takeaway.
I would just say two things. One, I should like to discourage colleagues who get the adapter to start immediately without any information on how to perform it, just to try, because it would lead to the negative opinion that the device is unusable or not working well. So first, always look at our information material, get some theoretical information, some theoretical practice, and just then try it in the patients. The second one is that at the beginning, everybody will have some small amount of leakage. That's normal, and this could disappear after getting more skill. But don't stop trying to give it further, because the result will be better and better always. And if a small leakage is there, it doesn't do any harm, because the drug solutions are usually overdosed. So if 10% get leaks in leakage lost, that doesn't count.
Yeah. I think when I listen to everything that you discuss, there's clear benefit, obviously, for the patient, for the nurse, for the physician, for the hospital, for the insurance company also, because this is a big part here in the US. So I have no doubt that this product will have success here in the US. And looking at everything that you provide, the support, it's going to be very interesting in the next couple of months and 2026, and see how it's going to go, and maybe come back in a year and have the same discussion and look back at the success we had. So thank you, you two. I know it's late at night probably for you, so I wish you a good evening, and talk to you soon. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having us. It was a great conversation.
Thank you.
And we're going to add at the end link to the website, information about your product, and people can reach out to us if they are a distributor who wants to look at the product, or physician. We'd be happy to serve them. So thank you again. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
See you.